This is a CDR mailer, the best CDR you could ever come across. But why is it the best? The answer might surprise you. Well, it will surprise you. But here's the kicker. The CDR mailer is not really a CDR at all. Listen, when you get on the SSDI rolls, medical CDRs are almost inevitable. Based on certain factors like your age and your medical conditions, you're bound to go through a medical CDR at some point. But based on your age and medical conditions, you might end up with one of these bad boys and escape the full medical CDR. Like I mentioned a moment ago, a CDR mailer is not really a CDR. It's called a self-help form sent out by SSA to get more information when you're closer to the end of that CDR diary. It's designed to get recent information from you about your medical conditions and the treatment that you've been getting because of your conditions. And by recent, we're talking about the 2 years before you got that CDR mailer in the mail. Now, the mailer is a relatively short form in SSA circles. It's really about a page long, but there are questions that are answered that's really going to help determine whether you need to go through a medical CDR or not. The first question is, within the last 2 years, have you worked for someone or have you been self-employed? The second question is, in those same 2 years, has a doctor told you that you can go back to work? Next, have you attended any school or work training programs? And on top of that, are you willing to go through some kind of vocational rehab or some other kind of program to help you get back to work? Next, have you been hospitalized or had any surgery in those 2 years? And then, have you gone to a medical doctor or a clinic for treatment for your conditions in those same 2 years? The most important question is question 2. And question 2 asks you to check a block that describes your health right now. Is it better, the same, or worse? The second thing you need to know about CDR mailers is mailers are sent to people on the rolls who meet certain criteria. But here's the key. Those people have to have a low likelihood of seeing any medical improvement in their conditions. Now, SSA uses this process called profiling. I'm not talking about the police type of profiling. I'm talking about SSA's type of profiling. In their SSA profiling, what they're doing is they're determining your likelihood of being able to go through a full medical CDR based on things like your age, your conditions, any recent earnings, your time on the rolls, things like that. And what they do, they assign a score based on what you are looking like in your profile. People with a score of low are in pretty serious shape. They're having adverse situations, maybe with age or conditions or whatnot. And these conditions would usually result in their benefits being continued if they had to go through a full medical CDR. I need to mention that just because you don't score low, maybe you're at a medium or a high, doesn't mean that you won't get a CDR mailer. It really depends on the conditions. And no, don't start asking Social Security what your score is. You can kill that noise. The third thing you need to know about CDR mailers is mailers are not processed by your local Social Security office or even the DDSs. The offices that take your claim or work on your claim are not involved in CDR mailers. That responsibility is with what's called processing centers or payment centers. There are about 7 of them nationwide. They have a lot of different things that they do in these processing centers. And one of those things is to process CDR mailers. The fourth thing you need to know about CDR mailers is they help determine whether you need a full medical CDR. In other words, SSA sends out the CDR mailer to determine if you need to go through a full medical CDR to establish if you are still disabled. In most cases, the responses that you give on the mailer will show that you don't need to go through a CDR. But I will mention this. The form is voluntary. You don't have to fill out the form or answer the questions at all if you don't want to. But if you refuse or fail to provide the answers that they're asking you, it's full CDR city, baby. The fifth thing you need to know about CDR mailers is, like any other form, you don't have all year to get it done. The processing of mailers sometimes gets held up even at the PCs. There's a lot of them coming through, so they may not get to them immediately when they come in. But when SSA catches up on the work, it won't take long at all, 5 minutes or less. Reason why I know this? I used to work on CDR mailers when I was working at a PC, and I got the scars to prove it. There is a possibility that when you mail in your CDR, you might get another CDR mailer sent to you. That's because there could have been a delay in processing on the PC side, or there was a delay in the mail system, or there was a delay on your part in sending it in. Those things are kind of normal because there's always going to be some kind of delay when you're dealing with Social Security. But when we're talking about mailers, there usually is a delay because there's so many, like I said, so many of them coming through. Just fill it out and send it in. What I recommend is that when you get your first mailer and fill it out, before you send it back, make a copy of it. Just make a copy of the form and your answers on the form. So if they do send a second mailer, you won't have to go through the rigmarole of figuring out what you put down on the first one. You'll have it right there on your copy. Now you're probably wondering this, well, why do I have to cover Social Security's delay in processing my mailer? Why is it that I have to be the one to do a second mailer because they didn't process my first one timely? Well, I'll answer your question with a question. Which would you rather have? A second CDR mailer that you have to fill out, or a full medical CDR? If they send you a second one, like I said, just fill it out and send it back in. Because if you don't, wait for it, it's full CDR city, baby. Number 6 on the list is don't get on the non-responder list. Normally the PCs will get a non-responder alert if you don't respond after the first 2 attempts they make in trying to get you to send in that CDR mailer. Social Security is pretty generous in the amount of time that they give you to complete the mailer. In general, they give you about 4 months on that first request to fill out the form. Let's say you don't complete it or you don't turn it in after that first request and you blow through 4 months. Well, they make a second request to send out another mailer and they give you another 45 days. That's darn near half a year. But after that 45 days, if you don't respond, then you go to DIRCON. DIRCON is simply direct contact. What they're doing is they're going to give you a call and try to get the information from you over the phone. Now, they will make 2 attempts to get in contact with you over the phone. Busy signals don't count. They actually have to speak to somebody on the other line or leave a voicemail. If DIRCON is successful, in other words, they call you and you pick up the phone and you give them the answers to the questions on the CDR mailer, then they'll either make 1 or 2 decisions. Either they'll process what's called a deferral, which means that your benefits will continue and you stay on the rolls, or they make a decision called a DO CDR, which means that you're going to be going through the full medical CDR. Now, if they can't catch up with you after 2 attempts, say it with me, it's full CDR city, baby. Now, I need to add this point if you're concerned about you still getting checks from SSA. If they can't reach you, or if they do reach you, but you refuse to answer the questions, SSA cannot use your non-responder status or you refusing to answer the questions as a reason to cease your benefits or suspend them. But even though they're not suspending your benefits or ceasing them, you know what time it is. It's full CDR city, baby. Now, I want to make sure you take these steps when you get the CDR mailer in your mail. The first thing is fill out the form completely. Don't leave any question unanswered. Make sure you complete it in full. The second thing is mail it on time. You got 4 months. And even if you missed the first cutoff, there's 45 more days. So there really is no excuse to fill out 1 form, 1 page. And that's all they're looking for. And the third thing is you have to sign the form, sign it and date it. You want to have it documented on the form, and they need that because of what I'm about to say now. And I'll bring you back to question 2, the most important question on the form. Let's say that you are doing better in your health, but you answer and say, I'm doing worse, just to stay on the rolls. Well, that signature says you are signing on that form that you certify under penalty of perjury that everything that you answer on the form is correct to the best of your knowledge. And if you are found to be making a false statement or withholding information to give the truth about what you're dealing with, then you could be taken off benefits, you could have some penalties, you could even be sent to jail. So you have to make sure that you are answering honestly and accurately, because if you don't, you're driving through full CDR city and you're on to some other city that we're not even going to talk about. Now, you've been watching this video about CDR mailers, but you're probably wondering, what is a CDR to begin with? Well, I got a video that deals with that very subject. All you got to do is watch this video up here, and I'll talk about what a CDR is.